Alright, welcome to a new video. I'm gonna showcase a game that I recently played in turn-based in Mikey's tournament against a very strong opponent who's 800 plus elo, and yeah, we are we are already in round 3 because I don't wanna waste anyone's time with the first 2 rounds. I played them pretty poorly, but yeah, I'm just gonna get started. I immediately take 2 blues here. I feel like that's a pretty standard move. Um, that doesn't really need much of an explanation, just to finish my row 3. Um, to get a bit quicker to the moves that are actually interesting. They grab a white, which is also logical, and this move I feel like is also pretty forced. Here I discard a white. The main reason for that is I don't want them to finish their row 3. Because that would come with a lot more flexibility for them in the next round, and also with a lot more threats. For example, if they take a red this round in their top row, then they would only need 5 more to get the color bonus, and they have the first player star in the next round as well. So if reds are clumped in the next round and they take them immediately, then I would be stuck defending them in the next round, which is gonna limit my flexibility a lot. And I couldn't really allow that, and also keeping your opponent clogged on row 3 um, uh, for some time will also reduce their scoring a lot, because it's a pretty high scoring row that they can't use. And I'm also, regarding my board, I don't have urgent priorities. I can grab my row 1 later, or my row 2s. I kind of need to put tiles in the middle anyway to merge them, to get them merged, instead of taking tiles one by one now. So yeah, that's the rationale. They grab a red, and now comes the first interesting decision of the game. I grab, like, the most obvious move in this scenario would be to grab 1 red for the top row. You get a very good top row. You keep adjacency, and you also merge yourself to row 2s. That is a pretty intuitive move, I would assume, for most players, and also a reasonable choice. But I didn't like that much. And the reason is, if I take red, they would take 2 blues in row 5. Then I would be forced to grab, I mean, maybe not forced, but I probably should take 2 blacks in row 2. They would grab 4 golds in row 4, and then 3 golds, 1 black, and 1 blue remain on the platform, meaning I go last. And I would have to discard a blue. They would discard a black, and then I would be stuck with 2 golds. And 2 golds are very, very bad for me in that setup, because I could only play them on row 4 or discard them, and playing golds on row 4 would be very, very bad. Looking at the tile counts, there are 5 golds remaining, and I need them in row 1 in the next round, so I'm very likely to not finish the row 4 in the next round. Also in row 2 I would only have blue as an adjacency option. Depending on the runout, they can take blacks away. They would want to still build this column, right? In row 4, so I might be stuck on 2 rows going into round 5, and all of my moves are gonna be pretty forced. I don't have any flexibility, and I would just have to, like, let's say I would discard the golds, and I would still have a point lead, but I would be it would be a very close game still that is not gonna be easy for me to navigate. So instead I played a different move, and I'm just gonna show it and then explain the logic as the game plays out. because it might be a bit easier to um, get my point across why I played this move and why I think it's a lot better. Um, it was also my first instinct when it came to this scenario. Um, and the main idea is to attack, or the main reason why I found this move, or like why I went with it, is because it's a lot more combative and it actually attacks tiles that both my opponent and I need. And those are the blues. And optimally I would want to keep them clogged on row 3 and 5, which was a pretty important objective of mine. So I grab a blue row 2. And I'm not gonna like go in depth, like there have maybe some different ideas here too, but none of them are really that interesting. And they played the most obvious line, the most like the line that I anticipated. They grab a blue for row 5. Now I'm pretty forced to take the other blue to complete my row 2. They discard red, denying my row 1. Only reasonable move, they can't really commit to a row 4, because then I would just grab the red and dump the remaining tiles on them. And I grab blacks, and they are gonna play the golds in row 4. And the reason why I much prefer this scenario should become obvious immediately by just looking at at the board. I don't have any issues anymore. I'm gonna massively outscore my opponent. They are going to get a bunch of floor line losses, and I'm not gonna be stuck with 2 golds that I really didn't like. And I simply don't have any issues. I finish my row 2, my row 3, my row 5. My entire board is open. In the next round I have complete flexibility. And that is like the main idea behind it. The only thing that I need to worry about in this scenario is that my opponent is not going to finish, that we are going to finish the game in round 5 instead of round 6, because the longer this game goes, the more threats my opponent will make. Like the red color bonus is still alive, or the threat of a second column for them. So my only real priority going into the next round is getting a row 2 and getting the first player's tile as well. Those are my only real objectives in the next round. Whereas my opponent, they are not really. They're just gonna be. They have a lot of objectives going into the next round. Optimally, they would want to get a row 1 and 2. They need to unclog their row 3 desperately. They would want to unclog their row 5. And also, they still have not built a column yet. So they will still need to invest heavily in blacks as well. And if you list all of my opponent's priorities and objectives in the next round to mine, then you will realize how flexible my game is and how forced theirs is going to be, and that creates a lot of problems when there's a big discrepancy in the objectives of 2 players. Because I have complete freedom, I can do what I want, and they will just need to chase their tiles pretty badly. Right, so let's play this out and go into the next round. Yeah, so I'm up by 12 points, and conceding the row 1 didn't really make much of a difference in terms of scoring points. One thing I forgot to mention is that I also gained a point back on vertical adjacency by playing the blues before I played the reds, because my golds and my whites in row 4 were disconnected, and if I play the reds first, then the reds would only be connected to the golds. So I would only get 2 points in vertical adjacency, but given that I played the blues first, it reconnected my row 2 and 4, and now I'm gonna get more points in vertical adjacency on the reds, so I gained a point back there. It wasn't like the reason why I played the move, but a nice byproduct of it. Alright, they grab 2 blacks because they kind of acknowledge. I should do tile counts maybe first. Okay, it should be correct. Yeah, so they do take blacks as their first move because they acknowledge that they're likely not going to get this outside column and they still need to get one. So they take 2 blacks first. My move here is pretty forced. I need to take the white in the first player's tile. My only priority, or like my biggest priority, is to get a row 2, and I can't really loiter on that. And getting the first player's tile is also very, very important for me in this round, because there are gonna be 3 reds remaining. My opponent is likely to get a row 2 with reds in this round. So if my opponent has the first player's tile, and you know, like there is a 3 stack of reds in the next round, I would automatically lose the game. It is only like a 2% chance, but you don't really want to expose yourself to that. And also my play would be a lot more forced if they can take a red and start creating problems around that. So taking the first player's turn, the white is pretty important. I don't always care to grab it for round 5 if my round 5 objectives are not really at risk. Like for example, if it wasn't for the reds here, I might just completely accelerate the game and take from platforms and leave it to my opponent because they're gonna get floorline losses in this round, and that would make them even worse. But yeah, like for example, like I would only need to get 2 out of 7 blacks in the final round, then it wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't for the reds. But yeah, I just grab it. Some standard moves I grab. Yeah, here I didn't think too much about it. I just grabbed a white for my row 2 to finish it. I didn't want to be forced into ever taking the white. So I grab it immediately. Pretty normal move. I also merge the reds for them. In row 2 they take them. And now my idea was to simply merge the blues even more by taking from a platform. I'm still flexible on my row 1. And I would need to just get the blues merged, because if I take the white away, like one thing is that we also talked about in the Discord, is turn compression. When your opponent has a lot of objectives and you don't, you can just compress their turns and merge tiles like a madman. And also, like another concept that I use frequently is to deprive my opponent of useful moves and to limit their options. And here I can combine that by taking a white in row 5. Because then they need blues for both row 1 and row 5. And they simply are out of good moves on their final moves. And I don't really have big objectives myself, so that accomplishes a lot. And yeah, I play it in row 5 because there are 4 whites in the next round that, you know, I might want to defend, and I can't play them anywhere else anyway. Also maybe, you know, a color bonus if there's like a 3 white stack or whatever, and if it favored me I could just take it and then threaten it. So it seemed like the only reasonable option for me. They grab 2 blues to unclog their row 5. And yeah, now I just grab a top row with red. Seemed pretty reasonable to me. Maybe I had a different move here. I'm not sure. I just kind of played that. They take a black. And now comes another interesting decision. And that is whether to take the golds or to take the blues. And that's a pretty tough decision for me that was not that obvious in the moment, and I had to spend some time evaluating both options. Because, well, if my opponent gets the blues, they get +4 points for their top row and -6 in the floor line, and I get 2 golds here in row 3 that I could turn into a 6 point play in the next round, which does seem very tempting. But the value of the blues for my opponent's top row might be a bit disguised. They are worth a lot more than 4 points, because it is to be assumed that they're going to get whites in their top row in the next round, which is going to be, so they're going to get a point of adjacency back on the whites, and then they're also going to get the row bonus, which is another 2 points. So they are already by default 3 points, um, worth 3 more points than they are in the moment. And also, if my opponent was to get a row 2 with white in the next round, they would also contribute 2 points of adjacency there. So they're actually worth a lot. And so that's the first thing I want to note. And the golds might not be that good for me in row 3. There are 3 golds in the final round, but the golds are not really my biggest priorities potentially in the next round, because I have 2 very massive objectives, and that is to finish the game and also to potentially have to deny a row 3 red that I definitely need to deny at some point in the game. And round 5s are usually pretty aggressive with lots of merges, so there's a very decent chance that the goals will merge before I even get to play them in my row 1. So it limits my flexibility a lot if I was to play them. Which is why I decided to just take the blues as a break-even play for me in row 4 and give my opponent -2. That's kind of like how I thought about it. I just wanted to keep full flexibility. I did not want to bring myself into a bad scenario around my top row and my row 3, because they're not my biggest priorities. So I did take the blues and gave them the golds. Might be, I don't know, it really wasn't obvious to me what's better, because placing the golds is very tempting and it looks really good, and giving my opponent a lot more floor line losses look good too, but I think taking the blues has to be the play. And should give me an easier time converting this game in round 5. And yeah, in round 5 I kind of played, it's probably not that special of a round, so I'm gonna go through it quickly. Because I'm up by 12 points and I can just play reasonable moves and my opponent likely won't be able to get back. And yeah, the onus is on him to catch up, and I can just play lines that are winning. I might not have played the most accurate moves or the most combative moves, but I just looked for a line that wins, and I seem to have found one. One thing I want to talk about here also, the golds are merged as a pair of 3s, so it's a low chance, it's like 2% of that happening, but yeah, my golds in row 3 would have been utterly worthless if had I played them, so I'm very glad to not have made that play. Which is another reason as to why I did what I did. But yeah, I now just grab 2 blacks for row 2 after some loitering. They grab 2 whites. Yeah, I didn't really want the reds to merge, because then I would be forced to take them, so I'm intended to be proactive about that and just grab the red in my row 4. That way I still can take either the golds or the blacks in my row 3. And I can also still grab a top row with blues if I need to. They have to also merging the blacks because if they don't complete their column, then they have no chance to win at all, which makes that more expensive for them, so they get some floor line losses. I grab the blacks, they grab whites to complete their top row, and now I can just grab a blue from the platform to finish out the game. Like, those were pretty standard moves that just ended up securing the win. But yeah. Um, I hope it was somewhat instructive. I was probably all over the place here, but like, it's not always easy to articulate some deeper ideas and concepts well. But yeah, I hope it was enjoyable and of value. If there's any feedback on the game or the video itself, I'd appreciate it. Alright.